Hey, so I'm talking now with Janine Regan-Sinclair, and I've got to tell you, this is going to be an exciting episode. Janine was just telling me how, as a little girl, she was really spiritual and she was connected to the spirit world. She was able to communicate with spirits. But then, as she grew older, those channels somehow got closed. So she went through life just like the rest of us, engaged in her life and her career. She was an architect until something happened to her later in life, which caused a massive shift, and I'll let her tell you all about that. She has since astral projected, among other things, and she's encountered entities and angels and beings that most of us could only ever dream of seeing in sci-fi and ultra-fantasy movies. So she's written 5 books about astral projection. She's got this huge, large, comprehensive website, Instagram and YouTube channel. She conducts extensive training sessions, does one-on-one coaching, as well as, she has large online webinars and meetings. Just in the first 5 minutes of speaking with Janine, my head's already spinning. She's got a lot of insightful knowledge to share with us about the concept of the duality matrix. She's going to talk to us about topics such as energy vampirism and spiritual evolution. And we're also going to have a discussion about the traditional concepts of God and heaven and hell. And we're going to hear about what Janine has witnessed herself, along with her proposed alternative perspectives. So it's going to be a really interesting one. Let's dive in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? So, who's Janine? What do you do? How did you get to do what you're doing right now? So give us a bit of your backstory.
Okay, well, I was in architecture for 20 years, and then I lost my dad when I was 36, and that was a turning point in my life. By the time I was 40, I was into healing, energy healing, because I was ill because of the grief, and I went down the healing route and studied hypnotherapy, counselling, energy healing, some shamanism, psychology, and a few other modalities, NLP. So I work as a therapist and a healer. I'm also known as the consciousness architect. I've published 5 ebooks so far, writing another one now. I make online courses. I run an online academy where we meet up twice a month, and I facilitate something called the One Portal, which is basically opening a portal in front of you that draws out from your energy field any negative programs in there and fills the space with high frequency energy like the source energy or one energy. And I give one-on-one treatments. I do realign energy in people's homes. I do consciousness coaching, so taking people into their subconscious to find what's blocking them in their career or love life or whatever else that they're doing. So I've got quite a lot of strings to my bow in that respect. I do a lot of free work on Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel as well. And it's been a passion, really. It's more of a vocation with me than a career. It's definitely what I was sent to do.
So we don't wake up with this crazy ability to suddenly talk to the creator of the universe and to heal other people remotely and all those sorts of things. So you're an architect. Unfortunately, you lost your dad. I'm sorry for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you went through some huge grieving process as a byproduct of that. How did you become aware that you had these abilities? Or how did they just sort of come into your being?
Well, I was a clairvoyant child, so I used to be able to play with the fairies in the garden when I was a little girl. And then I closed that down when I was 11, when I went to middle school, you call it probably. And then when my dad passed away, when I was 36, I was just this clairvoyance came back. And I started to be able to see all sorts of things, from angels to aliens to, UFOs to fairies, you name it. And I kind of embraced it then because I was old enough to, be mixing with other people that were awake and aware of that kind of stuff and didn't think it was too weird. And I've incorporated it into my work and my book. So I've written my 2nd, 3rd and 4th books. How I fell into astral projection was I was trying to meditate in the bath, and instead of just going into a nice quiet Zen place, which I can do now, I was out of my body and I was just flying around here, there and everywhere. And then I started working with Archangel Michael and going on these vision quests. That's what I wrote about in my second, third, and fourth book. So Saving the World from My Bathtub is the name of my second book. It kind of grew from there, really.
Okay. So you had an accidental out-of-body experience. So you're in the bath, you're meditating, you're thinking this is just going to be a nice, fun, relaxing time.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're flying around the house.
Yeah.
Had you heard of astral projection or, out-of-body experiences at that stage? Or
I had, and very early on, so I was probably about 38 then, I'm 58 now. I bought a binaural beat astral projection CD, and it was just 20 minutes of like hissing noise. And I just listened to that, and as I was lying down, I actually felt myself come up about 3 feet off the bed. And a bit like you, Brent, at first it freaked me out a little bit. But that's when I realised that I was in the astral body 3 feet above the bed. Whereas what I teach is to stay consciously in your physical body, but also be outside of your body with your consciousness. So you're projecting a part of your consciousness outside, and basically you've got your own back. So I could see myself step out of my body from my physical self, and I can guide myself as well while I'm out of my body. So I'm in two reality spaces at the same time.
wow. So you had a bit of an exposure to this. You'd already started listening to some binaural beats. You thought, okay, I want to astral travel or project. And you're in the bath. You have this out-of-body experience. It frightened you at first. At what point did you become okay with it?
The first out-of-body experience I had was actually lying on the bed. Once I was getting into the bath, and by the way, being in a bath of water is like being inside a big liquid crystal. So it amplifies any energies. Once Archangel Michael turned up, I was, where are we going? And there was stuff to be done, and that's what I've written about in the book. So basically I kept diaries, and then my higher consciousness said, turn these into books. And I was like, who wants to read what I'm doing in the bath? Who cares, kind of thing. And they told me that they would be training manuals for light workers for the future. So you basically go on vision quests. So it might be that you're going out dealing with, naughty extraterrestrials, and it's like some kind of Star Wars thing going on out there. Or one of the most unusual out of bodies I had with the astral projection was having a game of chess with a planet called Osiris, who actually invented the game, and he beat me in about 4 moves, I think. And
Wow.
Archangel Michael was giggling because he knew that this planet had actually downloaded the chess game to humans on Earth, so he was the creator of it. So all sorts of amazing experiences, from going, like could be walking through the woods, and if I sat down and closed my eyes, I could go into a tree trunk, like you see in fairy tales where there's a small door, like Alice in Wonderland type thing. And I could just shrink myself down and go into a door in a tree in the woods and be under the ground with the fairies and, all sorts of amazing experiences and stuff like that. And that's what I write about in my books.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you did well to be able to last 4 moves with the creator of the chess game.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How does this sound to a skeptic? I mean, did you tell your friends, your family, like, hey, I was just in the bath and, oh, by the way, I just happened to speak to the Archangel Michael and we went on this crazy journey? I mean, did people believe you?
Well, I was lucky enough that pretty much most of my family were awake. My mum used to see angels, and she used to talk to us about them. My son was clairvoyant when he was a boy as well. So, and my friends were all into that kind of stuff. They were all either into angels or healing or oracle cards, stuff like that. So they were all spiritually minded. So it was just the norm, really. I was lucky in that respect.
When you have this astral projection experience, or particularly the first one you had, how did you know it wasn't a dream? What's the difference?
I knew it wasn't a dream because I was lying in a bath of hot water, and I had an experience once that I was out of my body for actually an hour and a half, and the water in the bath was still hot, which is because when you go into an altered state of consciousness and you go into another realm of consciousness, time is not the same as linear time in this dimension. So when you're out of your body for an hour and a half, it can feel like 10 minutes. That's another thing. So if you are going to learn to do it and you've only got, 30 minutes to spare, you might want to put 30-minute timer on your phone to bring you back, because you can be out there for a long time and not realize how long you're out there. It's a completely different time zone.
Yeah, but it was the opposite for you because you felt like you're out for an hour and a half or something, but the bath water was still warm, so it was only 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah.
So this first astral projection experience, that would have totally changed your life, yeah?
It did, and I just embraced it because I remember doing it when I was a child then. I spoke about this on one of my lives recently because my mum would be in the kitchen shouting me for dinner and I'd just be miles away, and she would come and poke her head around the door and say to my dad, "Oh, she's away with the fairies again." My parents were Celtic, so there's always a belief in fairies and angels and spirit and stuff like that. And literally I was out of my body, outside in the garden playing with the fairies. Used to do it all the time when I was, a young kid. It was just normal to do it.
Wow, yeah. That's where the saying comes, so that she's away with the fairies.
Exactly, yeah. It is where the saying comes.
Obviously, since then, you've had a whole bunch of astral projection experiences. I mean, you've been doing this for 20 years, so a couple of decades, so you're obviously very well versed in it. A lot of people have obviously talked about meeting with past deceased friends, relatives, guardians, mentors, all those sorts of things. Have you met all these people?
Yeah, I've had experiences where, first of all, it was angels, and then it was archangels, and then I went to the galactic. I had a guide called Galactic Master Peter, and he looked like he had a white captain suit on with the gold trim on it. He was super helpful. I've had the ability to speak to the spirits of trees through astral traveling. Planets have all got, most people know about Mother Earth being called Gaia. That's her spiritual name. She's a living, breathing spiritual entity. Well, so is Jupiter and Pluto and, the other planets. They've all got spirits as well. So if you know how to do it, you can go and communicate with planets. So I did a bit of that as well. I kind of dimension hopped a lot. And you can, extraterrestrials, I've seen a lot of different extraterrestrials. There's an interview I did a couple of years ago with Jo Wood. She was married to Ronnie Wood of the Rolling Stones. You know the Rolling Stones in Australia?
Oh, yeah. I think they know them all around the world.
Yeah. Well, Jo had her own podcast called Alien Nation, and she interviewed me on there, and I was talking on there about my experiences with extraterrestrials. It's called The Consciousness Architect. I think it's number 14 on there. So, and a lot of people are into this stuff. She'd interviewed Robbie Williams and Jean-Michel Jarre and the other guy out of Blues Brothers. He's into all that stuff. A lot of people are really interested, particularly in the alien side of it, because you can go and meet all these different spirits, and some are really cool and some are not so friendly, but you learn that's why I teach discernment in my online astral projection course, so people know, don't go to that one, and how to get rid of anything that's not good for them and stuff like that.
Why would we encounter bad spirits? What is their objective to try and trick us? What's their benefit from that?
Well, we live in a duality matrix, so you've got polarity of light and dark, and as you move through all of these different layers, you're going through different dimensional realms, you're meeting different aspects of spirit, different parts of creation. And as we evolve and mature spiritually, we get wiser and wiser, and our vibrational frequency goes up. We're actually more powerful. It's like your energy field, if you imagine it like an onion, there's different layers to it. And most of it's switched off, and that's like the humaners. But when we start to heal ourselves and we start to expand our consciousness again, and really connect with our spirit and realize that we're spirits in a physical body, we're evolving into more powerful beings. So these light and dark beings are part of that journey. It's learning to discern, it's learning to be compassionate, it's learning not to judge. So they come in like they do in shamanism, like the trickster, to test you to see if you're still wet behind the ears and naive, or if you've smartened up a bit and you're a bit wiser to which way to go. And it's all just it's part of the game of life, really. Spiritual evolution. It's all about exploring and evolving.
So in the physical world, you know, there's obviously people that are out to get other people. There are nasty people. There's people with ill intention and all that kind of thing. Normally it's for their own personal gain, for monetary reasons or whatever. So in these dual realities, what's going on that there are entities that are out to get us there? What's that all about?
Well, that's about energy vampirism. So it's about draining your energy, because they feed off fear. So they want to scare you so that you get fearful and your vibration drops, and then they siphon that energy off you. So, you know, that's what that's about. But even in the physical world, Brent, you know, when people come into our lives and do bad things to us, it's happening for a reason. It's happening for our spiritual development. It could be karma. It could be that you need to learn about forgiveness or judgment. So there's always a meaning to everything that happens to us, whether it's in the physical or in the astral, in the spiritual planes.
Somebody like yourself who's had a lot of astral projection experience, you've experienced different worlds and all the rest of it. How do you feel about life after death? I mean, obviously you would feel that we're eternal,
Definitely.
eternal beings.
Yeah.
Do you fear dying?
Not at all. No.
Is God real?
My interpretation of God, I would call what people call God one, and I see one as everything that is and everything that isn't. So it's the void and creation all as one thing, and that it's a supreme intelligence, a field of consciousness that we can communicate with.
So the God of the Bible, is he made up?
I think they're nice stories to guide people that have been slightly manipulated to control people.
What is the objective behind that? Why do we need to be controlled?
Well, we're in a situation where most humans don't realize just how powerful they are. And, you know, we wander around this world just letting other people rule over us when that's not necessary. If we all had our own plot of land and grew our own food and had the communities that we possibly could have, we wouldn't need these people ruling over us. We don't need rulers. I don't believe in royalty. I don't think anyone's got royal blood. I think we've all got the same blood, and that we're all equal in the eyes of one. It's just that some people have got, you know, they've been put on pedestals, and it's human nature to do that, but it's not a wise thing to do, to put anyone on pedestals. We have to look everyone in the eye as equals, and it doesn't matter whether they're considering themselves a king or a homeless person on the street. In the eyes of one, we're all the same. We're all souls in a physical vessel, having an experience in order to grow. That's what it's about.
So this whole heaven and hell, good versus bad, pure versus evil, those sorts of things, they don't exist?
They exist as programs in what the matrix of creation. And the way I explain it to people is these stories have been made up, and in the beginning we were one, we were neutral, we were pure, we didn't have any light and dark. Evil hasn't always been there. Evil's a man-made thing. It's based on stories, and it's evolved. Every story, every book, every movie, every TV series creates in the ethers something called morphic resonances, which is memories of what we've experienced, what we've written about. Those memories are software in the machine of the matrix of reality that we live in. So all of these things, when you learn to heal yourself and go to the source, you can bring that source through your body and switch off those programs and memories, and you're purifying yourself. So your matrix gets purer. And that's what the control is about. It's keeping people down, keeping people weak, keeping thinking God is something outside of themselves, when actually the God particle is in our DNA. We're all a piece of one. We're all a piece of what people will call God. And when we're looking outside of ourselves, that's not the place to be. We need to go within and realize that we're all just one massive, beautiful energy field that is part of the Supreme Being, broken down into little pieces, having experiences on a physical realm instead of just being pure consciousness in the higher realms. And the journey is raising us up through those realms. And that's where meditation comes in, living a clean life, not drinking alcohol, things like that put dark spirits into your body. Recreational drugs put dark spirits into your body, and learning that.
That's pretty much on par with what the Bible says as well. And I mean, the Bible's a man-made book, obviously. And as you've sort of hinted on, that the Bible's been written as a kind of a story to keep people on the straight and narrow. But I've read the Bible. The Bible kind of says a very similar thing, how we all started out in this pure, Garden of Eden, this utopia kind of state. And then Eve was beguiled by the Satan or the devil or the snake or whatever, and then because of that, sin came about, and then there was good and there was evil, and so there was this whole heaven and hell thing. Now, for somebody like myself who's spent the last 30 odd years or so believing in Christianity and believing there's a God, do I throw all that out the window?
No,
Is that not
no, it's
real?
just another. God is another name for the oneness of the divinity of the supreme being. It's the dogma in between that is the problem. When dogma starts to say to people, you're a sinner and you have to pray to God for forgiveness, and all this, it's putting you down. That's not what God wants to do for people. God wants us all to be living in the Garden of Eden, all the time. That's why I use the term one, because I've got a lot of different people that come to me from different religious cultures that have moved beyond that, and they believe in a God as such, but not all the dogma that's been controlling. And as you only need to look at the amount of money that goes into the churches, and there's people sleeping on their doorsteps. If you came to, there's a big church in Vancouver, and there's hundreds of homeless people, sleeping outside every night. And it's like, the churches are so rich. Why are they not looking after these people?
Yeah, well, that's a whole different story,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of corruption in any organization, whether it be the church, whether it be politics or whatever. There's
yeah.
obviously a lot of corruption and inequality and injustice and all those sorts of things as well. This first time you ever had an astral projection experience, it totally changed your life. Have you had some, like really scary or bad experiences in the astral realm?
Not many. I've had a couple of experiences where, like, something you would consider dark came to see me and tried to scare me. But
Yeah.
I tend to just kind of, when that happens, is I would say, peace be with you, or I love you, and it dissipates them. Remember, everything's energy. We're living in a simulator that's like a hologram. Our consciousness is projected into reality. We can change that with our heart. Love is the key. Pure love, though. There's a difference between love and pure love.
Yes, there's skeptics, right? I mean, this is a whole different realm. We're not taught about this stuff. We're taught, in schools about, well, anything except
Yeah.
we're definitely not taught to have out of body experiences. We're definitely not taught about multidimensional beings. We're definitely not taught about parallel universes. If anything, we see documentaries. If one person sees a UFO or something, like, oh, there could be life on other planets. So, of course, we're very much sheltered from this whole thing. Ghosts, extraterrestrials, talking to the dead, all those things are shunned, and we're like, that doesn't happen, that doesn't exist. And if it does, it makes headline news. So when I speak with someone like yourself who's like, oh yeah, I talk to aliens and I've played chess with planets and I've done all these kind of things, there's going to be skeptics without question. What would you say to the
I
skeptics?
would say to the skeptics, you need to understand and explore just how vast your consciousness is, because there's so much more to us than just this physical experience. It's just, one layer of consciousness. And until they've explored it, and there are some really amazing people out there that are, brilliant scientists and so on and so forth, that astral project and talk about these things. Going back to, the God thing, the reason I use the word one is because it's universal for any different religion can come, So I'm not anti-God or anti-religion or Jesus or any of that, because all of those, Jesus is a beautiful gold energy, and it's just certain cultures have given them physical, drawings to to go with that energy field. But if you break everything down, everything is just ethers. It's just energy. It's a scientific fact. There is no physical reality. 99.999% of an atom is empty space, and we're made of atoms. So it's a holographic experience. And there's a good book, there's good books out there about this, some brilliant scientists as well that are talking about it. So, I'd say to the skeptics, do some homework before you start poo-pooing ideas, and try and remember that you are a spirit in a physical body, not a physical body with a spirit. It's the other way around.
Yeah, that's key, isn't it? I've been reading that a lot in a lot of the books I've been reading. It's kind of a very subtle difference, but it's a key difference, is that we are not a body with a spirit. We're a spirit having a body experience, or we're a spirit with a body vehicle. So, and that's a subtle difference in the wording, but makes a massive difference in our perspective on things. Your series of books, so I'm going to grab them, have a read. They sound interesting, especially the one about the your journey from the bathtub, which was obviously one of your first out-of-body astral projection experiences. What sort of insights do you think are in this book that we could take away from it?
Different places that you can go to, bringing in a spirit guide. Like my spirit guide was Archangel Michael at the time. And just the discernment, like, for example, in one of the stories, an angel came to me and tried to give me an orb of light that looked beautiful, but when she smiled at me, she had a black tooth, and I thought, doesn't feel like an angel. Angels don't have black teeth. So there's little clues in there about, using your discernment, but it's fun. As long as you can go out there, you've got a spirit guide with you, you can call in an Archangel Michael, or just call in his name 3 times, or ask him for the neutral one, and then you've got a neutral archangel to work with, not a light or a dark one, because there's light and dark in everything. There's a double of everything in existence. So it's learning how to use that discernment and just the kind of experiences that you can have. And there may be somewhere I've been, which is a reality pod that you think, I'd like to go where, and experience that. I'd like to go and meet that planet that, can play chess and and use it as a kind of guide, really, sort of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of thing.
How often do you do it? How often do you astral project?
Me, probably, I would say on average about 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm just of the opinion that, like, once I can do it, why would I want to do anything else?
Well, I think if they taught it to teenagers, that they would be doing it instead of taking, like, drugs and alcohol, to be honest. It's fun, but they need to learn discernment, and they need to, learn how to do it properly so that they've got the protection. And if something comes along, nothing's ever come along, Brent, that really, would do me any harm,
So I can go to bed tonight and just lay there and wake up in the morning and get up and go to work and get on with my day. Or I could lay there and get into a state of however I can to astral project, and then I can be flying and going to galaxies and talking to whomever I like. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do it every night?
Exactly. I took a friend of mine a few years ago and her 10-year-old son on a journey, and we imagined going up in the lift to the top of the Empire State Building, and that we had massive wings like, archangels, and we all jumped off and were flying around New York together, the 3 of us, sitting around a dinner table. So it can be good fun, and you can do it with friends.
Wow. Have you experienced any unequivocal proof where, I've read stories of people that have gone and they've seen something, they've come back, they've reported. So to give you an example, let's say I was flying around in my neighborhood, and as I went over my next door neighbor's house, I noticed that somebody had kicked the soccer ball on top of the roof. And then if I said to someone, that, by the way, you might want to check your roof, there's a soccer ball on the top. Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, things like that can happen. Yeah, and I've experienced picking up, on people that I know that may need some help or something like that as well. And I've had their spirits astral project to me, asking for help as well. So if they need healing or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen. I mean, you can go and you can swim in the ocean because you don't need to breathe when you're astral projecting. you can go into the ocean and you can ask the dolphins to come and play with you, or the whales. You can communicate with them. You can go and sit on the top of Mount Everest. You can do whatever you want.
It's exciting. As far as undeniable, unequivocal proof that you could say to somebody else the next day, oh, by the way, I saw this, and they could go and identify it in the physical world. Have you had any experiences like that?
Not in that sense. The nearest I can say to it was when a friend of mine was on vacation, and we astral projected and met up in the astral planes, and she was telling me about how bad the vacation was because it never stopped raining. And then when she got home, I was like, so it rained a lot when you were away? And she was like, yeah.
Did she remember astral projecting with you
Yeah,
as
she
well?
did, yeah. She picked up on my vibration.
Okay.
So it's like you can feel, I used to do it with my friend. In fact, if people read the books, I used to do it with my friend Joan in the books. We used astral project together, and we'd go off and, on journeys and vision quests and do a lot. So yeah, if you get into it and practice it, and you've got friends that can do it, you can do it as a group. You could go into the movie Avatar, to the Tree of Souls, and sit under the Tree of Souls. I've done that one. That was a fantastic experience.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, the first time I'd sort of heard about out-of-body experiences was when my first wife had done it. And, she woke me up in the middle of the night. She's like, oh, honey, I've had this crazy experience. I was flying around the house and all that. I'm like, you were doing what? But, she said that she went into the bedroom where her son, my stepson, was sleeping. And he looked up at her and put his hand out and said, can I come up with you? And he went up with her, and they were both flying around the house together. And he was only about 3 or 4 at the time. So that would have been a crazy experience. And I know obviously that you can do it with other people. And I've also heard of stories where the next day, those two people have gone and separately related their experience to somebody else. And, these things all match up.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Where can people learn more about you and connect with you?
My website is my name, so it's JanineRegan-Sinclair.com. So yeah, it's a pretty complex website. There's one-on-one sessions with me, and there's all the online courses, and there's live courses, Zoom courses, and there's lots of DNA upgrades on there as well, which are audio meditations. There's about 50 of them on my website, and all sorts of courses, basically, teaching you healing, astral projection, Akashic records. Do you know what your Akashic records are?
So that's where we go to when we sleep at night, and everything we think and do and all that's kind of recorded. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's the spiritual library of everything, yeah. Animal healing courses as well on there for people that have got pets.
Janine, it's been awesome having a chat with you. I know you've got so much to offer that we could easily talk for 3 or 4 hours. Maybe we can have you back again and talk about some other things, but you've got a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to have a look at your books, read your books. It's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Brent. It's been great. It's nice to talk about it. I know it's a bit weird and wonderful, but hey, life needs to be weird and wonderful.
Wow, what an awesome conversation with Janine. Man, she has had some amazing experiences. Head over to her website, JanineRegan-Sinclair.com, and grab a copy of her book, or any of her 5 books. I'm going to. They sound like some very entertaining and enlightening reading. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more episodes like this. Or better still, come and have a chat with me yourself and tell us all about your astral projection experiences. Head over to my website, astralprojecting.net, and get in touch with me. Love to hear what you've been doing in the astral world. We would love to have you as a guest on our show. Come and have a chat. It's no pressure. It's an audio-only podcast. You don't have to show your face. But I'm sure you've got something of value that could be shared with the audience. We'd love to hear from you. So subscribe, go to my website, send me a message, and let's hook up and have a chat. Let's hear about your adventures. Stay tuned, and I will speak to you in the next one. Thanks for listening.